Adam, let's kick things off here in Nebraska.
We start in Nebraska, where we're having a discussion of a state potentially legalizing online sports betting at a time of year that normally we are not having these discussions, right? Most legislative sessions have wrapped up for the year, but Governor Jim Pillen in Nebraska has begun the discussion of online sports betting as part of a special session in which the unicameral, one-house state legislature is discussing ways to potentially reduce property taxes in the state and still fill a budget hole. So there is discussion of taking what is a retail-only market right now and going with online sports betting. Now, this comes with the usual caveats that we have on this podcast about if you are looking to plug a specific hole in a state budget, sports betting is not the most stable revenue source that you can look for. But of course, there are benefits that we have discussed plenty of times on the podcast that come along with legalizing sports betting that are not necessarily just about capturing tax revenue that is going other places. Now, we began the discussion at the state legislature yesterday in the General Affairs Committee, in which you had the committee discussion going for and against, not terribly surprising. Those talking about wanting it. We're talking about money that is going across state borders. They had testimony from GeoComply about how many pings there have been trying to access sports betting outside of the state, and then, of course, how many Nebraska registered accounts there are that are going to other states, specifically Iowa, where the overwhelming bulk of the traffic has gone from Nebraska. You then had some folks for the usual values organizations and Tom Osborne, the famous Nebraska former head coach and athletic director, who was against it, as many in the college athletics realm have been over the years. So we'll be watching that as the special session goes on. If nothing else, it is possible that within the next couple of years, if this doesn't happen, that it will still potentially go through, because Governor Pillen has talked about introducing a priority bill, one of the bills that gets taken up first in the session for this next year. So Nebraska more and more seems to be gaining some momentum. Not the largest state, of course, when it comes to population that could be adding to the overall total addressable market for online sports betting, but certainly another piece of the puzzle that folks have been looking at for a while as a place that could potentially move forward. As we look at the bill, 90% of sports betting revenue would be directed to the property tax relief fund. Senator Elliot Bostar talked about how he believes that the state is missing out on $32 million in revenue, and that if you wait until 2026, which would be the next chance to do this if they end up having to go through the regular legislative channels, that adds up to closer to $100 million.